order. Ruth Jones to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Twigg. And I beg to move this House consider government of the RSPCA and it is real pleasure to serve under your chairmanship.
I've got a few other members here.
But it's also fantastic to be able to open today's debate on government support for the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals and to recognise its history, praise its work, celebrate and thank its volunteers and supporters in its 200th year. Now, 200 years ago, on the 16th of June 1824, a group of people met in a London coffee shop, determined to change animals' lives for the better. They created the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and this sparked a movement that spread around the world. With kindness at the heart of the mission, they boldly set out to alter the moral feelings of the country. Since that first meeting, the RSPCA has taken the lead in advocating for animal welfare, including working with politicians and decision makers to secure laws that have transformed the lives of millions of animals in the UK and beyond. Alongside this, the RSPCA and its wide network of branches and partners have played a significant role in changing attitudes and behaviours to animals through its education, prevention and scientific work. The Society was the first animal welfare charity to be founded in the world. Before that time, there was little discussion as to whether animals could suffer, and therefore animal cruelty was widely prevalent or not even considered an issue. Animals played a very different role in people's lives. Few people kept pets. Animals were used for work, transport, or even entertainment. Bear and bull baiting was common, and even Parliament Square itself contained one of the most notorious dog-fighting pits in the country, which was eventually closed in 1830. Since then, caring for animals has gradually become woven into the fabric of British society and our laws. People now recognise many animals as sentient beings who deserve our respect and kindness. And I'm very pleased to say Parliament recognised this in the Sentience Act, which was passed here only 2 years ago. But there's still a long way to go. Animals are facing some of the biggest challenges of the past 2 centuries as climate change, habitat loss, cost of living and the pandemic take their toll. This means the RSPCA is needed now more than ever. In 1840, Queen Victoria gave her permission for the then SPCA to add the royal prefix, becoming the RSPCA. At this time, there were 5 full-time inspectors who were paid a guinea a week. Today, the RSPCA has the equivalent of 361 full-time frontline officers, including 233 inspectors and 128 animal rescue officers. These officers cover all of England and Wales, meaning the RSPCA has just 1 inspector or animal rescue officer for every 167,000 people. The RSPCA were early adopters of digital education and now have 4 education and community engagement hubs across the UK. Furthermore, the RSPCA offers animal welfare education to school children, young people and families with opportunities to engage with pets and wildlife. As part of the Pet Education Partnership, a collaborative initiative between 8 of the UK's leading animal welfare organisations, the RSPCA aims to make animal welfare education accessible for every child aged between 5 and 11 in the UK. Now, in 1835, bear and bull baiting was abolished and dog fighting was made illegal, but we know it still continues as an illegal activity today and is investigated by the RSPCA's undercover officers. So despite this killing, the killing of animals for sport in society has continued. Fox and stag hunting and hare coursing were popular pastime in rural areas. But through a combination of campaigning, investigations and legal action, the RSPCA worked tirelessly with other organisations such as the League Against Cruel Sport and International Fund for Animal Welfare to end these practices. In 1911, inspired by the RSPCA, the Protection of Animals Act was passed. This important law tackled almost every type of cruelty to animals. The RSPCA was a pioneer in recognising the need to work closely with politicians and decision makers to secure policy and legal change, and in 1924 employed its first public affairs officer and their first woman, Gertrude Speedwell Massingham. She was a real trailblazer for animal welfare and was the founder of the Council Against Bullfighting. And this year, the RSPCA honoured her through the Speedwell Massingham Award, which is part of the Paw Prince Award scheme. And this has been running since 2008 and awards local authorities and public sector organisations for going above and beyond for animal welfare.
Now, Sir Robert Gower, MP for Hackney Central and Chair of the RSPCA Trustees, set up the Parliamentary Group on Animal Welfare in 1929, the first in the world and the first such group on any issue in this Parliament. The RSPCA still provides a secretariat for this group, the APGAW, as it's now known. More recently, arguably one of the most important legislative changes for animals, the landmark Animal Welfare Act, was introduced in 2006 under a Labour government. The Act introduced the concept of prevention of cruelty to animals rather than only acting after cruelty has occurred. Now, the overwhelming majority of convictions secured by the RSPCA in 2023 were under this very Act, but there is still more work to be done. Currently, more than 100 million animals around the world are still used in research and testing annually. In 2023, 2.6 million procedures were carried out in Great Britain on animals such as mice and rats. The RSPCA have always campaigned strongly for these animals to be replaced with humane alternatives, and data shows that 77% of people agree that the UK government should commit to phasing out the use of animals in scientific research and testing. The RSPCA supports this government's manifesto commitment to accelerate the phase-out of animals used in science and to set up a strategic advisory board, which will bring together stakeholders across academia, industry and charities to work towards this goal. This can have a meaningful impact on how we view and use animals used in scientific experiments, and I do commend the government on setting this goal and hope the board can be set up quickly, and perhaps the Minister could set out a timetable in his response. Moving on to pets today, nearly 60% of households in the UK have at least one pet, with a total of 38 million pets being kept. Of course I will.
Thank the Honourable Member for giving way and congratulate her on this debate. Just on the issue of pets, would you agree with me that we are a nation of pet lovers, and she's giving a very, very significant contribution to that commentary. But the example of the pet-loving nature of our nation is often seen when there are the cruelty examples that we see to pets, and the outrage and indignation that is right across the nation, thus indicating and vindicating the support that she's indicating and the rest of us hopefully will do for the RSPCA and the need to support them in all their work.
I thank the Honourable Member for his intervention, and he's absolutely right. We know as MPs, don't we, that the amount of emails we get in our inbox every week, every month, just testifies to how much the public do care about animal welfare, and so I thank him for that. He's made a valuable point there. But in recent years, as owning a pet has become more popular, we've also unfortunately seen an increase in extreme designer dog breeding. For example, recent dogs such as French bulldogs have risen in popularity. Unfortunately, these types of dogs have welfare issues and are known as brachiocephalic or flat-faced dogs, and they can suffer from breathing problems, and they're often unable to regulate their own temperature and also have difficulty with exercise. However, we will see these trends continue until there are stronger regulations around the breeding of pets. Social media platforms also have a role to play in this, as extreme breeding trends are often exacerbated by what's promoted on platforms such as Instagram and TikTok. Under the Animal Welfare Act licensing conditions, it is illegal to breed an animal if their breed conformation causes welfare problems. But the wording is vague and has never been used to stop breeding animals that have welfare problems once they're born. And so the RSPCA hopes to see the government clarify this point very soon, maybe as part of an animal welfare strategy. But we have had some successes. Only earlier this year, Parliament decided to phase out the private keeping of primates, showing how attitudes to pets are changing. Similarly, in 2019, Parliament agreed that keeping wild animals in circuses was no longer appropriate in England, as their welfare could not be guaranteed. I hope they will now turn to reviewing the legislation governing the control, exploitation, welfare and conservation of wild animals in England and Wales, which has turned into a complex patchwork of overlapping and sometimes conflicting provisions. Because in 2015, the Law Commission carried out a review into current wildlife legislation, concluding the current legislative framework covering wildlife is outdated and does need reforming. So the RSPCA supports the recommendations of this report and is calling for consolidation of the wildlife law in both England and Wales. Now, as attitudes change and people increasingly understand that animal welfare matters, they are also recognising they can do something about it. Shoppers are becoming more interested in the origins of their food and the well-being of the animals involved. This is affecting what they choose to buy. which is why the RSPCA has been calling for the introduction of easy-to-understand factual labelling on the method of production of all animal products. The consultation on this closed in May of this year, and I appreciate it was under a different government, but perhaps the Minister will be able to set out when the government will publish the results of the consultation and the timetable for the introduction of such a scheme. We've seen a fantastic progress this year for farm animal welfare after a 100-year campaign from the RSPCA. The exporting of live animals for fattening and slaughter was finally banned earlier this year, but there is still more that can be done to improve the lives of farm animals. The RSPCA are calling for an end to cages for laying hens and farrowing crates for sows in the UK. In the UK, enriched cages are still permitted, housing around 10 million egg-laying hens. Enriched cages provide just 9% more usable space per bird than battery cages, which is basically just the size of an A4 sheet of paper for the space for each bird. Also, around 6 million pigs reared for slaughter every year are born in farrowing crates, metal crates within a pen where pregnant sows are placed 1 week before giving birth. With multiple litters in a year, sows can spend up to 15 weeks in these crates a year. Again, the previous government did commit to a consultation on ending the use of cages in farmed animals, and I would support this being restarted by this government. So in conclusion, Mr Twigg, I want to pay tribute to the amazing work undertaken by the RSPCA in the past, and currently, and in the future. Thank you.